Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining the Bhagavad Gita discussion today. Before we start, we will chant Jai Radha Madhava prayers. So please, you can all follow along. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaranari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Govinda Jayo Srinivas Govinda Jayo Srinivas Govinda Jayo Srinivas Govinda Jayo Prahlad Narasimha Jayo Prahlad Narasimha Jayo Prahlad Narasimha Jayo Prahlad Narasimha Jayo Jayo Prabhupada 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 Jayo Jayo Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Shri Krishna Balaram ki jai, Shri Nitai Gauranga ki jai, Shri Srinivas Govinda ki jai, Shri Prahlad Narasimhadev ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Before we start, we will recite the auspicious name of the Supreme Lord. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining today's discussion on Bhagavad Gita from Sri Krishna Balaram Mandir. So today we will be discussing from the second verse of the 10th chapter. This 10th chapter is also known as the opulence of the Supreme Lord. So the actual name of this chapter, the opulence of the Absolute. So in this chapter, Krishna is speaking about himself and he's telling something before he starts speaking. So we'll read the second verse. I'll recite it a few times and then we'll read the purport and we'll discuss a little bit about this verse. So 10th chapter, second verse of Bhagavad Gita. Name vidu suragana prabhavamna maharshayaha aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashaha. I'll repeat again. Name vidu suragana prabhavam na maharshayaha aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashaha. I'll repeat again. Name vidu suragana prabhavam na maharshayaha aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashaha. Synonyms, word-to-word meanings. Na, never. Me, my. Viduhu, knows. Suragana, demigods. Prabhavam, opulences. Na, never. Maharshayaha, great sages. Aham, I am. Adihi, the origin. He, certainly. Devanam, of the demigods. Maharshinam, of the great sages. Cha, also. Sarvasaha, in all respects. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charna Ravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin. For in every respect I am the source of the demigods and the sages. I'll repeat the translation once. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin. For in every respect I am the source of the demigods and the sages. Purport. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord. No one is greater than him. He is the cause of all causes. Here it is also stated by the Lord personally that he is the cause of all demigods and sages. Even the demigods and great sages cannot understand Krishna. They can understand neither his name nor his personality. So, what is the position of the so called scholars of this tiny planet? No one can understand why the Supreme God comes to earth as an ordinary human being and executes such commonplace and yet wonderful activities. One should know then that scholarship is not the qualification necessary to understand Krishna. Even the demigods and the great sages have tried to understand Krishna by their mental speculation, and they have failed to do so. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, also, it is clearly said that even the great demigods are not able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They can speculate to the limits of their imperfect senses and can reach the opposite conclusion of impersonalism, of something not manifested by the three qualities of material nature, nor they can imagine something by mental speculation. But it is not possible to understand Krishna by such foolish speculation. Here, the Lord indirectly says that if anyone wants to know the absolute truth, here I am present as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am the Supreme. One should know this. Although one cannot understand the inconceivable Lord who is personally present, he nonetheless exists. We can actually understand Krishna, who is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, simply by studying his words in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. The impersonal Brahman can be conceived by persons who are already in the inferior energy of the Lord. But the personality of Godhead cannot be conceived unless one is in the transcendental position. Because most men cannot understand Krishna in his actual situation, out of his causeless mercy, he descends to show favor to such speculators. Yet, despite the Supreme Lord's uncommon activities, these speculators, due to contamination in the material energy, still think that the impersonal Brahman is the Supreme. Only the devotees who are fully surrendered unto the Supreme Lord can understand, by the grace of the Supreme Personality, that He is Krishna. The devotees of the Lord do not bother about the impersonal Brahman conception of God. Their faith and devotion bring them to surrender immediately unto the Supreme Lord. And out of this causeless mercy of Krishna, they can understand Krishna. No one else can understand him. So even great sages agree. What is Atma? What is the Supreme? It is He whom we have to worship. Thus ends the purport. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Grananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitan Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktarunda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Prabhupada. So this is the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. This is almost the beginning of the 10th chapter. This is the second verse. And in actually the 10th chapter, there are around total of 42 verses. So here, this chapter is known as the opulence of the Absolute. What are the opulence? What are the potencies of the Supreme Lord? Right? And who is speaking? The Absolute Truth. The Supreme Lord Krishna himself is speaking. And before he starts speaking, he's giving some introduction about the knowledge he's going to now speak. So actually, we can read the first verse. Krishna, when he starts speaking this chapter, what is the first thing he's saying? So in Bhagavad Gita, here Vyasadeva is writing it, right? So it says, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, that Lord Krishna is speaking. Bhuya eva mahabaho srunume paramam vachaha yatte aham priyamanaya vakshyami hita kamyaya. So first Krishna is saying, Bhuya eva mahabaho. Mahabaho is mighty armed. And Bhuya eva, says, certainly please listen. He's saying, to whom? Who is the mighty armed? Krishna is talking to Arjuna, right? So he's telling Arjuna, Shrunume paramam vachaha. Shrunu means just hear. From me, me, Shrunume, paramam vachaha. Paramam means the supreme. and vachaha information. So now listen to this supreme information. And yatte aham priyamanaya. Why? Because you are very dear to me. Right? So why is Krishna saying this paramam vachaha? Paramam vachaha means the supreme information. Why is Krishna giving the supreme information to Arjuna? Because he is very dear. Because you are very dear. And vakshyami hita kamyaya. And vakshyami, I am saying this. Why? Hita kamyaya. Hita kamyaya means for your ultimate benefit. So Krishna is saying, oh my dear Arjuna, now listen to this supreme information from me. Why am I telling you? Because you are very dear to me and this is very beneficial to you. So the translation is, the Supreme Lord said, my dear friend, mighty armed Arjuna, listen again to my supreme word, which I shall impart to you for your benefit, which will give you great joy. So here is Krishna is saying that I am about to reveal some supreme information about myself. And he's telling Arjuna, because you're very dear to me and this is very beneficial to you, I am going to speak about it. And today's verse, we are discussing the next verse. What is Krishna saying? Before he continues speaking, he is telling a little bit more about this information. So here Krishna is saying, Name vidu suragana. He's saying, well, this information about me that I'm going to tell, Name viduhu means they don't know my knowledge. Viduhu means to know. Who don't know? This knowledge he's saying is generally not known. Who are the people who generally don't know? Or, what is Krishna saying? It is not known to whom? He's saying Suraganaha. Suragana means the demigods, the devatas. So Sura and Asura. Right? Asura means demons. Sura means the demigods, the devatas. What is the difference between the demigods and the demons? The demigods, they accept the supreme personality of Godhead. They accept the supreme authority of Krishna. And they are subordinate to the Lord and they work under his directions. Demigods, right? They are the administrators. And what are the asuras? Asuras, they don't accept the supreme Lord. They challenge. They think they can become greater than the Lord. And all the great demons, starting from Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, Ravana, all these greatest demons in the historical, records of our planet, at least, of our earth. There are so many demons. What are these demons? They defy the Supreme Lord. They don't accept the supremacy of the Supreme Lord. They think they are the greatest. Hiranyakashipu, when he attained all the powers, he, in his whole, kingdom, he said, no more worshipping Lord Vishnu. I am the Supreme Lord. He says, worship me. Do yagna to me, build my temples, build my deities, right? So much puffed up, powerfully became. They don't accept God at all. Right? So, but people who accept God, the Suragana, the Devatas, they are directly working under the Supreme Lord. Right? Brahma, Indra, Chandra, Surya, these are all the demigods, the Devatas. They are managing the administrative affairs of this universe. They're such great personalities, right? There are different kinds of administrators, and some administrators are very highly, positioned and capable, right? Like sometimes there's a president, and then the next high administrator is vice president, right? So like that, the Suragana means the greatest of the demigods. Krishna is saying even Name Viduhu, they also don't know. And Prabhavam, Prabhavam means opulences. My greatnesses, all my great opulences, the great demigods also don't know. And then he's saying, Na Maharshayaha, Maharshayaha means Maharshi, means Maharishi. Rishis means the great sages. And who are these great sages? The great sages, they have dedicated their lives, to understand and to take up very severe austerities and penances to understand the Supreme Lord. Where do we find great sages? They are in like Himalayas, in the depth of the forests. They have renounced the day-to-day world of, various avocations and distractions and material luxuries and comforts. And they have actually gone to forests and they're doing deep meditations and very strong austerities and penances. And Maharshi means one who is Maharishi is a very great rishi. But what is Lord Krishna saying here? Name vidu suragana prabhavamna maharshayaha. He's saying, no, even the Maharshis, Name viduhu, they don't know. They do not know me. Why is it so? Why is it that they can't know? They are such great positions, right? The demigods, the devatas, and the maharshis. They're very advanced people, from what we generally know. He's saying, Krishna says, no, they also don't know. Why? Because aham adirhi devanam. Because I am the origin. Aham adi means origin. He devanam. I am the origin of the devas. All these devatas, actually, I am the origin. They were created, by me. I am the original person. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a complete description of how the devatas and all life comes into existence. Lord Krishna, he expands as Mahavishnu, and from him Lord Brahma is born from his lotus navel. And then it is mentioned how Brahma was empowered by the Lord, and then he creates these universes. Then he creates, his various progeny, and then various rishis and prajapatis and different species of life. How all they come about, right? Krishna is the origin. So Lord Krishna is saying, well, I am the origin, right? How can they know me? I am their origin itself, right? And then he says, Aham Adrihi Devanam, only Devatas? No, Maharshinam cha Sarvashaha. I am the origin of everyone. All these great Maharshis also, I am the origin. I am the original, from me they're all coming. So how can they're all subordinate to me? Right? Krishna is saying they're so subordinate that I am their origin. Cha Sarvasaha, in all respects and everything. Everything I am the origin. So here is very clearly a clear distinction between the devatas and the supreme lord deva is mentioned. A lot of times there is confusion, especially in our Vedic Indian culture, because of lack of proper propagation of knowledge. There are so many temples, so many devatas, and people know a concept called God, the supreme creator, the supreme being, the supreme controller, and then they see these temples and they see the worship going on. There is, again, because of ignorance, lack of proper knowledge, people start thinking that all devatas and they're all the one, they're all same, they're just different names of the same God, and whomever you want you can worship. You can see the same God in different forms. So like this, so many concoctions and unfortunate misunderstandings. People think that any devata is also as good as God, or any devata is God, and they tend to worship the Lord, as any devata, and anybody they think that they are the supreme Lord. But actually it's not true. Krishna clearly is saying, Aham Adirhi Devanam. I am the origin of the Devas. So that means all the different devatas, or different demigods that we see, they are neither the same as the supreme Lord, neither they are as equal, or or independent of the supreme Lord. Actually they are all subordinate. Aham Adirhi Devanam. Krishna clearly, very clearly, in another verse, he says, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. He says, I am actually the Lord of all the lokas. Because all these devatas, they all have their own loka. Right? The Surya Deva is in the Surya Loka. Indra is in the heaven, is in Indra Loka. Chandra, the moon god, is in Chandra Loka. The different lokas are there. And so Krishna is making it very clear that it is not just a homogeneous one personality and different devatas all representing the same God. No, no, no. They're all individual personalities. Every devata, they are not like the same God in a different forms. No, they're actually different individual, beings who are working under the Lord, and they're all serving under the Lord. Because Krishna, he says, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. I am the Lord of all the lokas, of all these people, of all the demigods. Aham Madrihi Devanam. Here is saying, I am the source of all devatas, which means Lord Krishna is completely different than the devatas, and actually he is the supreme master, he is the supreme Lord, he is the supreme being, and all the devatas are subordinate beings under him. And now what is their situation? Even they don't know the supreme Lord completely. Even the devatas, Name Vidu Suragana, saying even they don't know. Even the Maharshis, they don't know. And that is why in the Brahma Samhita that Prabhupada is mentioning here, it is mentioned Ishvara Parama Krishna. This is the important thing. Ishvara means the supreme controller, the supreme. Ishvara means controller. And the supreme controller, Parama means the supreme. Ishvara Parama Krishna. So the supreme controller, the supreme Lord, the supreme Ishvara is Krishna. And Ishvara Paramakrishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha. What is the Supreme Lord? It is actually Satchit Ananda. The Supreme Lord is a form. What are the three attributes? Sat means eternal, Chit means full of knowledge, Ananda means full of bliss, and Vigraha, he has a form. The Supreme Lord has a form. It's not impersonal. Prabhupada in the you know purport, he's saying that even Krishna is saying here that even the great demigods and the Maharshis, they can't know. What can the normal people know? Right? And what are the normal people doing? They do research. They do research work to find out God. And unfortunately, even after doing so much research and mental speculation and so much analysis and study, they can't understand who is the origin, who is God. Because something that is beyond our comprehension, how can we ever understand? Right? We all have limitations. And when we have limitations, we cannot understand what is the substance beyond the limits. I can take a very crude example of an aquatic, which is in the ocean. It has its limitations. It cannot survive beyond the water. Now, if the fish wants to understand about a mountain peak, right, a very high mountain like a Mount Everest, how is it, what is it at the peak of the mountain? Can a fish ever understand? It is impossible, right? Because the moment it comes out of water, it is not able to even survive. So how can it imagine itself going on top of something like a mountain and understanding what it is, right? So when there are limitations, we are bound by the limitations, and because of the limitations, we cannot get complete knowledge beyond those limitations. And the great acharyas, they have actually analyzed and they have mentioned what are the four limitations we have. Why is it that we cannot understand God? The great demigods and maharshis also, they are not able to understand God. Why is it so? Because we all are limited by this material energy. We are currently under a material energy. Krishna says, Bhumi rapo analo vayu kham mano buddhir evacha ahankara miti yamme binna me prakriti ashtada. Krishna is saying there are 8 kinds of my energies, this material energy. Bhumi apo analo vayu khan mano buddhi evacha. Means earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. These are the 8 elements under which we are. This is the material energy. And because we are bound by the material energy, just like the fish is bound under the water, we are bound under this material energy made of this 5 gross elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, and 3 subtle elements: mind, intelligence, and ego. We are the supreme soul. We are, sorry, not the supreme soul. We are the soul, which is superior in nature, but we are covered by these material elements. And what is this? Because of these material elements, we are so conditioned that we have now limitations. What are the limitations? There are 4 primary defects of our mind body system of being in the material world. Prabhupada clarifies them. He says first thing is that our senses are imperfect. Right? We can't, our senses are not sufficient to get complete knowledge. For example, the sun, when we look at the sky, it looks like a small disk, isn't it? Always in the morning to evening, night, any day, in all life we see, it always looks like a disk. Sometimes might, appear a little bigger or something, right? But it's almost a small disk. It's just like a glowing disk. There is no way through our senses we can actually figure out that it is actually 14,000 times larger than the earth and it is, blazing effulgence. We can't even imagine, right? We need so many help of so much scientific or whatever so-called instrumentation. But even though, even the scientific instrumentation, even though whatever mechanisms we create, actually they are also limited by the same limitations we have. They might have uh, been able to extend a little bit of our ability, but still they are also under the limitations. Why? Because all these instruments are also created by people like us who are having these 4 limitations. So the first limitation is our senses are imperfect. The second limitation is that we are illusioned. What does it mean by we are illusioned? If we just analyze our own selves, every person, even the greatest scientist, unless he is a devotee who has studied who has attained some spiritual knowledge, what do they think of themselves? If you ask anyone, can you please introduce yourself? They will say their name. Can you tell more about yourself? Oh, you want about me? And they will say, I am this, I'm whatever, 5 feet, 6 feet tall. I'm this much, weight. I'm male. I am, these are my characteristics. So, what is the main primary illusion? Everybody thinks that he is the body. But just with little study and analysis, we can easily know that we are not the body. We are a living force different than the body. Does it require a very great knowledge to understand? No. When you observe any person who has passed away, any dead body, what happens? Everyone is very sorrow. Oh, the person has died. Well, the body is there. Why are we crying? No, no, no. The life has left. The soul has left. He's not in the body anymore, right? So it is very clear when you just look at a dead body and you talk to any person about the dead body, they will know, no, the life is not there. That means we are not the body. There is something else that it is. That is the life. And that is what we are. Because when that is missing, the body is totally useless, is considered dead. And they actually discard the body. They either burn it or bury it. It's gone. But this simple fact, which is actually known to everybody, which they experience and they realize at the time of death, when anybody is dead, they know that they are not the body. Why? The dead body is there. But while living, the person who died and the person who is living, they're still thinking they are the body. So this is the biggest illusion we are in. Even though we are not the body, though we are the living force, when death happens, it is a living force that is leaving the body. That is the life. The person has left, they say, no, he's not living anymore. He has left. Who has left? The living force, the real person has left. But people think they are the body. This is the big illusion. So we have imperfect senses, we are illusioned, and we have a tendency to cheat. Right? So it's a tendency to cheat. Unfortunately, because we are in this material energy, as I said, there are the subtle elements, mind, intelligence, and ego. What is happening is the combination of mind, intelligence, and ego, it is conditioned to get some personal benefit. And because of that, there is a tendency to cheat. Unfortunately, it is sometimes we see small children, maybe they're cheating to get a candy or something, or some bigger people, adults, grown up. There is a level of cheating going on at every level. And unfortunately, in the news, when you see, sometimes it is found that even the great scientists, philosophers, Nobel Prize winners also sometimes they reveal that they have manipulated some data in their research, that there was some cheating that was done. So this tendency to cheat is very big defect which limits our ability to understand actual knowledge. And then the fourth defect is we commit mistakes. So much so that to err is human, is what it is said. So we all commit mistakes. So with these four defects, how can we actually understand the Supreme Lord? It is impossible. So that is what Krishna is saying, that even the great sages, great demigods, they can't understand me. Then what about all of us? We are like normal people. The demigods are so much so powerful than us. They're so much capable. They're managing universal affairs. We barely manage one household affair. Right? So how capable, how great they are, even they can't understand. So then what is the scope for us to understand? Then the question comes, how do we understand God? The simple fact is that just by listening from him, just by understanding, when Krishna is revealing, then we can know. Then these great demigods, they did not know, without hearing, before hearing from Krishna, they also don't know. They don't know. There are so many examples. Like when Lord Krishna came to earth 5,000 years ago to perform his various, pastimes, various leela, uh, at that time also it was observed that the demigods did not know Krishna. Right? The universe is administration is happening under their guidance, but they themselves does not know when Krishna had appeared, and they didn't knew if it was actually Krishna. Like for example, the whole uh, Govardhan Leela, Lord Krishna, Indra did not knew that Krishna was the supreme Lord. He thought he was some cowherd boy, and it all started with Nanda Maharaj. He was the king of the Vaishya community. He was like the landlord, or the king of his community. And Nanda Maharaj was doing this Indra Yagna. He would he was trying to worship Indra. So Krishna asks him, he asks Nanda Maharaj, "Oh, my father, what is this that you're getting ready to do?" And Nanda Maharaj he tells that, "Oh, we are, about to perform this Indra Yagna." Then Krishna asks further. See, because one of the reason for Krishna to appear is dharma samsthapanarthaya, to establish the correct religion. Because, and to establish the righteous principles. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuttana madharmasya tadatmanam sujamyaham. Wherever there is decline of religious principles and increase of religion, I appear. And then he says, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha duskrutam dharma samsthapanarthaya. Right? To protect, Paritranaya sadhunam, to protect the devotees. Vinashaya cha duskrutam, to destroy the demons. And then the third thing is not only protecting and destroying, but to re-establish dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. To establish the correct religion, the correct dharma, because dharma, it when not followed properly, it is completely lost. So Krishna has to come again and establish the real dharma. What is the real dharma? Prabhupada explains what is the meaning of dharma. Dharma means people in general think it is like a religion. No, but actually dharma is the constitutional position. It is our real position. Just like when a citizen breaks the law, he's put in prison. What do they say? In general, they say he was adharmic. He did not belong to any religion. Is a citizen's constitutional position to obey the law of the state. If he violates the law, he is adharmic. He's put in prison, right? So the dharma actually doesn't have to do anything with religion. Dharma is what is the right thing, what is my right position, what is my constitutional position. Prabhupada gives a very nice example. He says the dharma of sugar is to be sweet. Right? Is there any religion involved? No, it is the constitutional position of sugar to be sweet. The dharma of salt is to be salty. The dharma of fire is to emanate light and heat. Right? So this is what dharma means. So in the same way, for the spirit soul, for the living beings, for all the human beings, what is the dharma? What is my constitutional position? Jiver Swarupa Nityera Krishna Das. This is the real constitutional position. Jivera Swarupa. Swarupa means the real identity. Swarupa. Rupa means a form. But Swarupa means the original form. Jiver Swarupa Nityera Krishna Das. The real form, the real constitutional position of a person is to be devotee of Krishna. That is why Krishna says, Dharma samsthapartaya. What is the dharma he established even in Bhagavad Gita? He says, Sarva dharmam parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. He says, give up all your other kind of dharmas that you have manufactured, because this is the real dharma I am saying, that mameva prapadya. He's saying, you surrender unto me. Sarva dharmam parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. You take my sharan, you take. That is the real dharma. Oh, but what about all other dharma? I have come to get rid of all other dharmas. This is the real dharma. Manmana bhava mad bhakto mad jachi mam namaskuru. The 18th chapter, 66th verse, he is giving this conclusion. End of Bhagavad Gita is he's establishing, because he said in the beginning, 4th chapter, he says, Dharma samsthapanarthaya. I have come to establish the dharma. Now, what is that dharma? Krishna concludes in the end of the Bhagavad Gita that this is the real dharma. Become my devotee, surrender unto me. I will take away all your sinful reactions. Because our constitutional position is being subordinate to Krishna, surrender to Krishna, and serving Krishna in joy, love, and reciprocation in the spiritual world. But here we have forgotten and lost everything. We have forgotten Krishna, we have forgotten service to Krishna, and we are just lost in an illusion of trying to gather money, property, relatives, and fame and name and beauty. Everything will be totally vanished away at the time of death. It is like a big wave. What we do all our life, unfortunately, is building a sand castle at the beach of an ocean. If you're spending all your time building a sand castle, what happens? A big wave comes and washes it off. And that is what happens in our regular world. We are totally lost. We have forgotten Krishna, and we are carried away in this material illusory world. working for something which will be totally wiped out by a big wave called death. So Krishna is coming to say, you don't belong here. This is the real dharma. You surrender to me, you come back to me. Mamaiveshyasi satyam te pratijani priyosi me. You will come to me. What will happen when we surrender to Krishna, when we worship Krishna, when we perform devotion to Krishna? We will revive our lost relationship with Krishna and we will go back to Krishna. That is called Vaikunta, where there is no anxiety. So here dharma to be established, Krishna has come, and the dharma is actually surrender to him. Dharma is to worship him, to worship Krishna, not these demigods. Because one who worships demigods, like how Indra Maharaj, this uh, Nanda Maharaj was planning to worship Indra, Krishna actually condemns that. Even in the Krishna Leela, he talks to Nanda Maharaj and says, why are we worshipping demigods? You don't have to worship demigods. Is it mentioned in any Vedic scripture? He asks. He says, no, this is more or less a traditional, because, we are all farmers, we are farming community, we are, they're from the Vaishya community, right? So the Krishi Goraksha Vanjam, the Vaishya community's profession is to do farming, take care of cows, protect cows, and Vanijam trade, trade the goods, what they have produced. So he says, for all this, rains are very important, isn't it? And Indra is a devata in charge of the rains, so we worship him and we try to thank him, and we try to please him by worshipping him, so that we get good rains, and our business will go on nicely, right? So that was a very classic example of less intelligent people who worship the demigods. Because a lot of people, they worship devatas thinking something good will happen to them, the devatas will bless them and they will be prosperous and things like that. But Krishna himself says in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, kamastastair hritaknana prapadyante anya devata. In the 7th chapter 20th verse, Krishna clearly says, kamastastair, because of desires, kamaha, and hritagnana. Hrita means distorted, less, gnana means knowledge. So distorted knowledge, improper knowledge, prapadyante anya devata. They actually worship other demigods who kamastasthir hritagnana, one who is less intelligent and driven by desires. That means they are not having complete knowledge. They are just having some desires and very less intelligent. They are worshipping devata. In another place, in the 23rd verse, also Krishna says, Antavattu phalam tesham tad bhavati alpamedasha. He says, the people who worship the devatas are alpamedasha. Again, similar thing he's saying. Previously, he said hiritaknana means improper knowledge. Here is saying alpamedasha. Medasa means intelligence. Alpa means very small, very less intelligent people worship the demigods. Why is it so? Actually, Krishna explains this to Nanda Maharaj. He tells, the demigods are just different administrators, and they're just doing their job, and whatever karma we perform, based on that they're giving those results, right? Just like we have various departments in this world, right? In our governmental affairs, let's say Department of Energy, Electricity, and things like that. Let's say you have to prepay instead of paying at the end of the month. Let's say you have to pay in the beginning of the month, how much ever you want, you pay that much. So what will that department do? Oh, he has paid only so and so. Only for that amount they will provide us the utility, isn't it? Or when you're trying to purchase something, you will only get for what you paid. In the same way, Krishna says the devatas, they're just administrators of various activities in our life based on our karma. Only if my karma permits, they will give. Just because you worship, they won't give anything more, even if my karma does not permit. So Krishna clarifies to Nanda Maharaj that you don't have to worship Indra, because he's giving rains because based on our karma. If we do good karma and we deserve a good life, then the devata is obligated to provide us what we deserve. So like this, Krishna is trying to establish the right dharma. What is the right dharma? That don't be less intelligent, and don't be improper, carried away by improper knowledge. Don't be carried away by improper information. The devatas are just administrators. Don't unnecessarily worship them. You have to worship the Supreme Lord. So that is why he says you don't worship Indra. And there is a reason why Krishna does this, why he has targeted Indra. Because it was said that Indra was little puffed up. When people worship, let's just say, if there is a government official, He knows even though he's not the president, but if people start glorifying him and something, sometimes he'll start thinking, I'm as good as president, I'm very great, whatever. So Indra got little puffed up. So Indra was, because people were worshipping him, and he got started thinking, "I am the supreme," because Indra was the king of the heaven. All the other demigods were under his, subjugation. So he was thinking, "I am the supreme. I am great." He got little puffed up. He became little egoistic. So Krishna, to cut down his ego, he purposely, targets him, and he says, "So let's not worship Indra at all. So then, what about all this?" Ingredients and preparations have been done, so much food items, so much preparation for yajna and all. So Krishna says, then we should actually worship Govardhana hill. Actually, this is practical, because Govardhan hill is what is providing all the nourishment for our cows, and the water and everything, good grasses and vegetation, everything we're getting. Let's worship the Govardhan hill. And then Nanda Maharaj, he feels, he was convinced by his dear son Krishna. He couldn't say no to him, and all the village men also, and they started worshipping the Govardhan hill. Now this Indra came to know, and when Indra came to know, he didn't knew, right? This is what this verse is also saying. Name vidu suragana. Even the great demigods doesn't know Krishna. So he didn't knew Krishna was the supreme person. He thought he was some cowherd boy. Says he thought, how dare some cowherd boy, just by some word jugglery, he has convinced his father from stopping this yagna, that is going on for my glorification, for my worship. How dare he does that? He gets angry, and he starts. He was in charge of rains, right? So he said, "Okay, I'll punish you people, for doing this. You have stopped worshipping me." So he sends, big rain clouds, and he starts pouring. Creates a very heavy pouring rain in Vrindavan, and now there's flooding, and there is so much devastation going on. People were all lost. Oh, what is going on? And then they all go to Krishna. Krishna, help us! What is this? Please do something, because though Krishna was a young boy, people in Vrindavan had full faith in Krishna. They were completely in love and surrendered to him. That even though he's a small boy, they just go to him and they surrender to him. Oh, Krishna, you do something, because they've seen from childhood Krishna was very powerful. Even just when he was a few days old, he killed Putana. It was said he was barely 3 months old or something. So big demons, Putana, Trinavrata, like this, so many demons came, and they all got killed under the hands of Krishna. So whole Vrindavan, they were so much fascinated with Krishna. They would think Krishna will solve anything, and though they didn't knew, but actually Krishna was the supreme Lord, right? So again, same way they went submitted to Krishna. Krishna, please do something. And Krishna said, "Okay, don't worry." And he lifts the Govardhan hill on the tip of his, left hand, the smallest finger. And people were amazed. Whoa, what did Krishna do? He lifted the whole Govardhan hill, and then he holds the hill like a big umbrella. It is said, currently today the diameter of Govardhan hill is like around 24 kilometers. You can imagine how huge umbrella, a whole city can live under the hill, right? So he lifted the Govardhan hill, and everyone took shelter under the Govardhan hill. So they were all protected from this, very powerful rains. And Indra, he thought maybe some kind of a mystic, powerful person or something, and he sensed, even he got furious, right? He got into anger. How is this that now I'm being challenged by this small boy? He thought maybe he has some special powers or whatever. Who does he think, a mortal being on the earth? I'm a devata, I'm a demigod, and I have so much power. How can this boy, try to do, show me, response to what I'm doing? And he tries to send even more powerful rains, and he uses his thunderbolt also, and then he starts attacking. And then Krishna, with his so much power, it could not disturb him. And then in return, Krishna created a situation that Indra would totally lose all his strength and everything, and he will fall flat in Vrindavan. And then he'll come to his senses that, oh my God, what I'm dealing with is not a normal person. He has to be the Supreme Lord, and he is the Supreme Lord. So Indra then comes to his senses, and then he would offer a lot of prayers, and he would, beg for forgiveness. So in this way, during Krishna Lila, we see how, the Devatas, under their, management only, the earth was working, and Krishna had appeared, and he was doing all this wonderful pastime. Even they did not know that Krishna was the Supreme Lord. And in the same way, there's another incident that happens where Lord Brahma, right? So Indra, though he was the king of the heaven, he's the king of the demigods. Brahma is actually even superior to Indra. He is the greatest of the the devatas, because Brahma was the first created being, and everyone else were born after Brahma, from Brahma. So even Brahma was bewildered by Krishna's pastimes. Yeah. So when Krishna killed Agasura, the information came to Lord Brahma, and he was told he's a very powerful, boy. He could kill even such a great demon. So Brahma was doubtful: is he really my Lord? Because he knows only the Supreme Lord. Brahma was a great devotee of the Supreme Lord. He was the first creator. Tene Brahma Hrida Adi Kaviye. The whole revealed, the knowledge, the Vedic knowledge was originally first revealed to Brahma in his heart when Brahma meditated on Krishna. So then Brahma had a doubt: is this really the same Supreme Lord Krishna? Is it so powerful? So he wanted to test. See, even he did not knew, and he would actually just to test what will this boy do. Krishna, Brahma hides all the cowherd boys and the calves and cows. Krishna, as a cowherd boy, he was tending the cows, right? And to his shocking surprise, he sees that instantly all the boys and cows and calves again reappear. So he was shocked. He was surprised. What is happening? I just stole away all this, cowhead boys and the cows and calves. How did they appear again? He was bewildered. What happened? And then Krishna reveals that that he shows the four-handed form, in all the beings, to show that he is the same Lord Vishnu. Krishna had expanded, and that's called Brahma Vimohana. Brahma was also bewildered, and to get rid of his bewilderment, and then Brahma immediately realizes, what an offense I have done. Krishna was performing his leela, his pastime. He was enjoying with his cowherd friends and the cows and calves. And what have I done here? I have used my powers to test him, and he defeated me by immediately manifesting all the same beings. And it was said that, because Brahma's time duration is in a different scale of time, one moment of Brahma actually was turned out to be 1 year in the earthly planet. So for 1 year, Krishna expanded, and as all the cowherd boys and cows and calves, especially like the calves, right? Because the Krishna was a young boy, he was only in charge of the